What's up, guys? Laura Whitmore here, owner of Strategic Test Prep, and I've been a test prep instructor for over 15 years now. I super score 1570 on the SAT, and I work with hundreds of students all over the US and all over the world. This video today is to help prepare you for the August SAT, whether you're taking the digital SAT or the paper version. So stick around because I'm going to give you a lot of practical tips so that you can study efficiently and boost your score. Now, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I am so happy to have you. Make sure you subscribe below because I come out with super helpful videos every single week to teach you how to master the SAT so you can get a better score. All right, guys, before I get into these awesome tips that I have for you today, this video is brought to you by Preply, the digital SAT prep app that is available in both the App Store and Google Play. If you are running out of materials to prep from for the new digital SAT, then download that app because there are hundreds of additional questions that are just like those that are on College Board's Blue Book exams. And best of all, you don't have to be tied down to a computer or laptop. You can prep on the go from your mobile device whenever you want, wherever you want. There is also a new version we just released, which is compatible with iPads. Now, first, I want you guys to do me a favor and comment below. How many SAT tests have you taken so far, or digital SAT tests? How are you scoring and how far off are you from your goal? Okay, so guys, the first part of this video is going to address those of you taking the paper SAT. So if you live in the US, you will be taking the paper SAT this fall. It switches over to the digital SAT at the beginning of 2024 for you guys. So I'm going to run through some quick points for you to get ready for the paper test. And I would definitely recommend you check out my other SAT study guide videos as well. Those will help you prepare. If you're in the class of 2025, I would recommend you stick around and watch the digital SAT tips that I have for the majority of this video afterwards, because I am recommending to all of my students to not only take the paper test this fall, but to also take the digital SAT this spring so that you can see what test you're stronger in and submit your stronger scores. If you're taking the digital SAT and you're an international student, you can obviously jump ahead to my digital SAT portion. I will link timestamps below for you. And so let's get started. Tip number one to get ready for the August paper test is to know that the August SAT is an SAT for the new 2023-2024 school year. Since we're in a new school year, guys, that means there's going to be new questions and concepts folded into this test that have never before been seen. So here's my suggestion for you. I am hypothesizing that many of the new questions and concepts, they're actually going to reuse from the digital SAT tests they've released. So I would download Blue Book Exams. It's an app by College Board, and I would practice the digital SAT math questions as well. Tip number two is to keep track of your pacing with a test-taking watch. There is no shame, guys, in looking a little nerdy and walking into the test with a watch. I will link below a test timers watch that you can get on Amazon to help you easily check your pacing without trying to figure out what is going on with the analog clock on the wall with the hands on it. So, especially in the reading section, a lot of my students that take the paper-based test really complain that they're tight on time on the reading or they run out of time on the reading. So if you have a watch and you start practicing at home with the watch on, it takes about 13 minutes per passage. So if you do one passage for practice and check your watch and 15 minutes have gone by, you know you're behind the pace and you need to pick it up. If you check your watch and only 12 minutes have gone by after the first passage, you know you're in good shape and you're a little bit ahead, so you can continue to adjust accordingly. All right, tip number three is know all of your grammar rules. Okay, guys, like the standard English convention questions on the paper test are gimme points. If you know parallelism, redundancy, sophistication, subject-verb agreement, how to tackle comma placement questions, the difference between plural possessive and singular possessive, the difference between affect and effect, the difference between who and whom, and all those good things, you should be good to go to get as many points as possible because your writing subscore should really serve to lift up your full English score, not drag it down. So if you don't feel like you have a good grasp on all the things you need to know to crush the grammar part of the writing section, I would recommend you take my self-paced SAT course. So I'm going to link it up here right now and down below. It is deeply discounted because there's only like 4 or 5 months left for the paper test. So, if you go ahead and check out, since you're a loyal YouTube follower, you're going to see you're going to get a really nice discount off of that. All right, tip number 4, if you're prepping for the math portions, make sure that you only work out of real tests that were administered over the past couple of years. Guys, they have changed the math sections drastically since 2016. Many new concepts have been introduced, like proving similarity or congruency of triangles, finding the y-intercept of an exponential function, and then other things have gone to the wayside, like imaginary numbers. So you don't want to prep out of the old practice tests that were in the book, because those were released in 2016 and 2018, and they're way outdated now. Okay, and then my last tip for the paper test is, if you're a class of 2025, I would recommend taking the digital SAT this spring as well. So this will help you hedge your bets. Maybe you vibe better with the one on the computer because it's shorter, because the passages are shorter. A lot of the strategies you pick up on doing the paper test will also translate to the digital SAT. So there's a lot of overlap. Okay, now we got the paper-based US SAT tips out of the way. Let's move to the digital SAT, which is really what I wanted this video to be about, because guys, you know that this test is new. It's hard to find materials. It's hard to prep for this test. And I want to be able to help you as much as I possibly can so that you feel super ready going into the August. So I'm going to address certain problems that students are complaining about for the digital SAT and studying for it. And then I'm going to give you solutions. So the first problem is many students are complaining that they are running out of time on the English Module 2. So if you do well on English Module 1, they are going to give you a tougher Module 2 section. And so many of my students that I work with internationally, and so many students on the YouTube community that have commented on my channel, have said the same thing to me. Laura, I keep running out of time, or I'm really tight on time on Module 2. Module 2 is way harder than Module 1. Okay, let me give you some solutions to that. The first solution for how to save some time on the tougher English Module 2 for the digital SAT is to immediately skip to number 15 when you get to the module. On number 15, that should be the start of the standard English convention questions. Those are your grammar questions, okay? They're quick, easy points, especially if you know all the rules. So you should start and do all of the standard English convention questions. It will naturally segue right into your expression of ideas questions, which are the transition questions and the note-taking questions. And those are also quicker, easier points to get, especially the note-taking questions, because all you need to do is read the question, don't read the notes, and you can actually pick the right answer. So from there, when you start at the middle of the module and go to the end, then you can loop all the way back to the beginning and do the words in context, which hopefully shouldn't take you as long either. So you're saving those tougher craft and structure and information ideas questions for last because they take more time. This will take some of the pressure off, because if you save those for last and you bank a lot of extra time, you'll know how much time you have to devote to those. If you try to do everything in order and you hit up those really like longer, tougher questions first, like logically completes the text and the graph questions, what will happen is you'll be afraid you're going to run out of time, and you'll feel like you're spending too long on those, and then you won't have enough time, or give yourself enough time to get the right answer. So then you're going to force yourself to guess on it, and then you're going to move on anyways. So it's just wasting a ton of time. So I would definitely recommend that new execution strategy. Start in the middle, work towards the end, loop back to the beginning, then start with number 1. Okay, solution number 2 to running out of time on Module 2 on the digital SAT is to read every single question first when you get to the passage or the text. You want to know what you're looking for. You want to know what type of question it is. So if it's like asking, okay, what answer choice will best support the claim that's made in the text, If you see the question first, then you know you can go zero right in on the claim. And to do that, you just want to scan the paragraph and look for a sentence that says claim or a synonym like the researchers assert, the researchers believe, something that basically points to, oh, this sentence is actually their claim. So it's a way to streamline your process because too many students are actually getting to a question on the digital SAT English and they start reading the passage and they don't even know what they're looking for. They're not actively reading, and then they go to the question and they're like, oh, what was the claim? And they have to go back. So just streamline it, read the question, then you know what to look for in the passage. And hopefully you only have to read the passage once, or you can just pinpoint the information you need in the passage, which is even better. And you don't have to read the whole paragraph. All right. Solution number 3 to saving time on module 2 of the digital SAT when you're studying. These are things, guys, you need to implement now when you're studying. Don't wait till the real test to do it. Is to understand the bank of answer choices that they give you and what to expect. So on the digital SAT English, what is happening is College Board is giving 2 answer choices that are completely irrelevant and ridiculous. So knowing that, it's your job to use process of elimination and get rid of those as soon as possible. How do you do that? Look for words in the answer choices that aren't even mentioned at all in the text. Therefore, they have nothing to do with the text. So like if one of the answer choices talks about an economical downturn and you're like, wait a minute, that text didn't even talk about the economy, just cross it off. Like keep it super simple. What's going to happen is you're going to have it narrowed down to 2 answers. And the pattern that I've noticed is one of the answer choices they give you, which is the trap answer, is going to be the opposite of the argument or state the opposite of what the right answer needs to be. So it's going to be really important when you have it narrowed down to 2 to think and not just rush to judgment and say, oh, yeah, this is talking about this. It's got to be that. Because one of them is going to be very relevant and tied to what the passage is saying, but it's going to flip the script and say the opposite of what you need. So avoid the trap answer and make sure you're picking the right one. The answer is what the question is asking for. Okay, now the next problem on the digital SAT that all my students and everybody on YouTube and everybody internationally is complaining about for good reason is the lack of materials to prep from. And guys, I am so I can totally understand where you're coming from. This happens every time College Board changes the test. The last time they changed the test was in 2016, and they released a book with 4 practice tests in it, just like how Blue Book exams only has 4 practice tests in it. And it took 2 years to get more practice tests released. They finally came out with another book in 2018, which actually added in 6 more tests. So it's going to be a while before College Board gives you guys more practice materials to prep from. That's just how it goes. So that being said, here's my first solution for you guys that are trying to prep for the digital SAT and are lacking materials. Most of my students, I am suggesting to go back to paper tests that were released this past year or 2. There is still so much overlap on the math sections that it is definitely to your benefit to practice some paper tests as well. You guys, I would say probably, and this is just an estimate, 75% of what is on the digital SAT math is also on the paper test or was on the paper test. The only thing that's different about the digital SAT math now is some of the stuff towards the end of the modules has gotten harder and is kind of new to the digital SAT. And I think that they're making the questions harder because you have that built-in Desmos calculator. But if you can get a grasp on all the concepts, like recognizing how many solutions there are to a system of equations, recognizing how many real solutions there are to a quadratic quickly, things like that, which you learn on the paper test, you're going to be in very good shape for the digital SAT. And, that being said, solution number 2 is along the same vein. You can use the old paper test to actually prepare for much of the English section. Hit up all the words and context questions. Those are the questions where you have a word in quotes and then you're trying to pick another word. You find those in the reading section. I would also say hit up all the transition questions in the writing section, as well as all the standard English convention or grammar questions in the writing section. Transition questions are easy to pinpoint. They're words like however, therefore, nevertheless. You can find those pretty easily. Standard English convention questions are just like questions without a question above it. They're just answer choices. You're basically correcting something in the passage. That's how you can pinpoint those. But that'll give you a lot more materials to work off of that are actual College Board real SAT question materials. Okay, solution number 3 to the lack of materials on the digital SAT is kind of a silver lining, if you guys will. Because there's a lack of materials on the digital SAT, the College Board also lacks questions to use on their tests. And rumor on the street is they're reusing the digital SAT questions over and over. I had students take the March digital SAT and then the May, and some of the questions on the May, they said were also on the March. I also had a student say that one of the questions on their test was also on a Blue Book exams practice test. So that being said, my suggestion would be to make sure you do each Blue Book exams practice test twice, because you want to have all of those questions down. You want to know all of the answers to those, because there's a very high likelihood, since College Board is a little bit behind the 8 ball and they don't have a lot of questions to test you on, that they're going to recycle questions this August. My solution number 4 to lack of digital SAT materials is to sign up for my online course. You guys, I designed this course with you in mind. I actually use it with my one-on-one students, but I have a ton of extra materials for you to work out of in this course, including a 200-page workbook I created myself. And right now you can use the promo code 50 off, since you are a loyal YouTube follower, to get $50 off your course. The course never expires. You can use it to prep for as many tests as you want, and you will get practical strategies and useful tips for tackling each and every type of question on this test, because there's nothing better than going into an SAT with a full, solid, concrete game plan where you know exactly what you're going to do and exactly how you're going to do it. So I'm going to link that right up here right now and down in the description. Definitely check that out. All right, the third problem that I've encountered that students complain about is that they don't have enough time. They're like, oh my gosh, I only have a 1100 and I need a 1300 to get into this school, and I only have like a month. Yeah, time is an issue, you guys. And if you're behind the 8 ball and you haven't started prepping early, then there are a couple things that you can do here. So solution number 1, if you don't have a lot of time to prep for the digital SAT, is to take on a super scoring strategy. What I mean by that is plan to take this August test and only prep for half of the test. So just focus on the English modules and try to gain mastery on just the English modules. Or just focus on the math modules and plan to gain mastery on just those modules, okay? If you do the whole test right now, you might be stretching yourself way too thin. You will gain mastery on none of it, and your score won't improve that much. Once you focus on one half of the test now, you can then focus on the other half of the test later. So sign up for the October test and then focus on the other half. Then you can take your 2 scores and put them together and have an awesome super score, like your best math and your best English, okay? So this is a strategy I use with a lot of my one-on-one students. I just think it's a way more efficient way to prep, and it's a way easier to maximize your score when you're only doing one part of the test at a time. Okay, my second solution for not having enough time to prep is to definitely make sure to sign up for more than one test, because if, let's say, you sign up for the August and you don't feel ready for it, then at least you have other opportunities down the line. And it's good to take more than one test for a few reasons, but the biggest one right now is, I think, you guys, that College Board is still figuring out their scoring algorithm. You can tell that there's some wonkiness. It's not very consistent. So like, for instance, the March test, a lot of the students bombed the March SAT. The algorithm was very tough on them. If you missed one, you were down to like a 760. It was crazy. Then a lot of my students turned around and took the May SAT and they crushed it. Like, everybody did great. Everyone was celebrating. It was awesome. So it was almost like College Board overcompensated and made the scoring algorithm much easier. So you never know what's going to happen on the August test. It could be a great algorithm or it could be a very unforgiving algorithm. So hedge your bets, sign up for more than one test just in case. That way, the more looks you have and the more opportunities, the more you can ensure that you're going to get the score that you want. All right, guys, that's it for me for this video. I hope that you use these tips to get ready for the August SAT and you found it helpful. If you did, definitely hit the thumbs up button below. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys again soon. Happy prepping.